My name's Jamie Davenport. I'm with Salesforce, and I am a success manager. I work with a handful of our large enterprise customers to help them get the most out of their investment with Salesforce. So this is I think this is my 6th Dreamforce. I was a customer for a long time before I joined Salesforce, so I've sat in your shoes as well. And today, our topic, this is actually the second time that Maggie and Karen have done this session, because they have such a great knowledge of the AppExchange and have been able to really leverage some free, which we all love free, apps to help them do some really cool things with the platform. So let's get going. So safe harbor, safe harbor, safe harbor. I'm not even going to explain. If y'all don't know by now, I know you've heard it 100 times. So please make your purchasing decisions based on functionality that's available today. All right. So is there anyone in here who is a new customer who is not familiar with the AppExchange or what the AppExchange is? We actually, in our last session, actually had a handful of folks who were not familiar with the AppExchange. So it looks like everybody here knows what the AppExchange is, knows where to access it, appexchange.com. It is really as y'all know then, a very unique marketplace where you can find an ecosystem of our partners and also extenders for our solutions that are developed by Salesforce. So almost 3,000 apps have been developed over the years, and over 3 million installs. So that's pretty cool. And they're for every department. So whether you're coming from the business side or whether you're an admin, there's just about something for everyone out there. So it's definitely a lot of things that can add value to your investment. So there are definitely some good free things in life, and I think a lot of the things on the AppExchange are good examples of that. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And if you aren't familiar with Salesforce Labs, Salesforce Labs is one of my favorite things. I have to admit, as a customer, I was not aware of how many awesome things Salesforce puts out under the Salesforce Labs umbrella in terms of sample dashboards and extenders. Some of them are just very simple, very pointed apps. Some of them are things like Milestones PM, which if you have a services arm, could manage all of your your revenue tracking and projects within that application. So there's a wide range of what's available. So if you haven't ever gone out to the AppExchange and just done a search on Salesforce Labs, there's a big treasure chest of things out there, and we're adding new things all the time. So I am basically functioning as the MC today. I've got two awesome speakers that you're going to meet. First, I'll introduce Karen Mcbride. She has lots of experience as a customer. She recently joined Accelerize 360 as an engagement manager. Deep experience working with Salesforce. And then Maggie Jolitz, who happens to be one of my customers at Cox Automotive, also super deep experience with Salesforce and has done a lot of really creative things with the application. So I'm going to turn it over to them and let them share their favorite free apps.
Hey, thank you, Jamie.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for coming today. So yes, I'm Karen Mcbride. I'm with Accelerize 360. We are a technology consulting firm. We were founded in 2010. We have over 140 employees in offices in Chicago, Atlanta, Dallas, New Jersey, and San Jose. So we do integration, implementation, optimization, and support services for Salesforce customers. So I want to, sorry, I'm going to jump ahead here, hit the wrong button. I want to start with one of my recent discoveries on the AppExchange. And if you have ever been an admin in an org where you have a complex user configuration, you're going to love Clone This User by Arcus. So maybe you've gotten that call like I used to get many times, where the VP of Sales will call and say, hey, I hired a new guy, forgot to tell you, but he needs access now. And I'm at lunch, and I know that I've got to run back to the office and go get this fella set up. Clone This User puts a real simple link on the user profile page, so I can go and pick the right user and clone all of their permissions, the profile, permission sets, queue membership, public groups, any add-on licensing. And with the click of a button, I have given that person all the correct permissions. So there's no digging around, no missed steps of, oh, I forgot to add you to this queue, I forgot to put you in this group. So everything flows really nicely. So this is one of my favorite new apps that I've discovered recently. Another one I've discovered recently that I'm super excited about, I'm sure many of you have been asked, if you're an admin, to document your configuration. We all know what a headache that can be. So this is Octopus, and very simple to use and install. Put this into your org. You get this lovely page here, and you can select everything that you want to configure or document, or you can just select the pieces and portions that you want, and it allows you to download it either as a PDF or a Word document. Simple to use, and it really does cover everything. Now, for your end users, this is a simple little add-on piece, but I find that it's a nice piece to have. So users don't typically spend their day on the home page. They're actually in the application, working their leads, opportunities, cases, what have you. And it's really nice to have a view of your calendar and what you already have scheduled, right? So this just puts it in the sidebar for you and has a couple of quick links there so you can quickly add new tasks and events. Just a real quick, easy add-on for your users. Another one that I found, this is by Salesforce Labs. As Jamie mentioned, they do a lot of nice little add-ons for you. So this is a good one if you've ever been asked the question, what activities are our sales people doing that are really driving their deals to close, right? What's really making a difference? This one lets you put the opportunity stage on your activities. So it will track the last stage that an activity was at, either if it's an event for the due date or when the task becomes closed. Allows you to generate those reports that your sales managers are looking for. And then my final app is SDocs. So I will give you, one caveat. It says free for the first 2 templates. There is a paid version of this. I find my most common use case for this, I install this for clients all the time for quote templates. So this is a native app. It gives you really simple form configuration and gives you, the button to just generate your templates and email them out to your users. It's a really nice native functionality and takes you beyond the standard quoting functionality, but you can use it for other things too. Account summaries, contracts, the use cases really are endless. All right, and now Maggie.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. How many people have a blister on their foot by now? Yeah, I know. This is my 10th Dreamforce, and I bring all these shoes, and it's like you have to carry an extra pair of shoes because your feet just need another pair of shoes to put on at some point because you need to wear a different blister in a different part, so the other blister gets a chance to heal a little bit. So really excited always to be here and talk about the AppExchange. I currently am working for Cox Automotive, which is Autotrader.com and Kelley Blue Book and Mannheim, some companies, Vin Solutions, Viato, and we have 15 Salesforce orgs. The org that I am the Senior Solutions Specialist for is a multi-tenant org, so we have 3 software business units in one org, which is a huge challenge when 2 of them already had a Salesforce org and kind of want to do things their way, and then another one had a Sugar CRM, and we migrated them. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been challenging. I'm going to talk about the one app that I used many years ago that seems so crazy simple when somebody asked me to put a stoplight or something on something. So I downloaded this, but I had a real aha moment when I downloaded this graphics pack. We all know that Instagram, Tumblr, Pinterest are all very graphic-driven apps, and that over 60% of users are very visual users. But how often do you see a visual in Salesforce? You see lots of text, right? because we can customize it, so we get real happy about putting lots of fields on every object, and our users are like, oh my God, what do I see? What do I do? What do I do next? So this graphic pack actually has been a lot of fun for me, and I'm hoping after you kind of see what I've done in different ways that you'll get excited and go back to your orgs, engage maybe your users in helping you come up with graphics to put on your pages. So like I said, again, it was a simple graphics pack that had simple graphics in it, but once I used it and learned or understood what they were doing with where the graphics were stored and how they wrote the formula fields and how they were putting them, that's when I had my aha moment. So the first thing that we did was we were a new startup company, and we were having a lot of trouble understanding who our customers were, especially in our support division. And you know, when you're a startup and you've got new customers and you have support reps, you really got to do something that kind of changes the tone so that when they see or they start to build a case, that they can understand, hey, this is a new customer. That means that they've been onboarded like in the last 90 days. They're a national account, which means they probably have lots of revenue opportunities for us, so we better be nice to them because they may give us more business, or they're at risk, we've done something wrong and they're not happy with us. This is a super easy one to do. You can have a lot of fun with this to categorize or display something unique about your accounts based on a field that you have. And this can be done really easily with formula fields, so as the status changes, a new graphic will come up. We actually had graphics where it could be a new customer with heat, so you can leverage both graphics, so it's new customer heat or national account heat, just to kind of let people know. And like I said, these things show up in list views. When you create a case, it immediately will show up when the case is there so that the agent can know, uh-oh, new customer, uh-oh, at risk. Stale close date. This is really nice for your salespeople. You can do this last activity date is stale, close date is stale. Put that on there. It can be in their list views when they come in the morning to start their work and they see that they've got, you know, some reds. And give them some greens too. Give them some credit for the things they're doing right. But the red stuff really kind of gets their eyes focused on, hey, wait a minute, I've got close dates in the past, and we know we got to clean that stuff up or we can't get to pipeline and forecasting if we've got stuff that's got no activities, stage durations are going past what normally they should be, or close dates haven't been updated to something that's in the future. And then again, the one thing that I found was really helpful is, I know you probably all have approval processes, but sometimes our users forget to click that button, right, to submit it. So have a graphic on the object that requires an approval process, have it be in orange, have it say, hey, this is not submitted for approval, remember to submit for approval. They'll remember to submit for approval. Once they hit the submit button, then you could have, this has been submitted, the record gets locked, and tell them, you know, kind of what your internal SLA is for approval, so they have a little bit of information. And then when it does get approved, you could just have a big green thing, it's approved. And this all just works off a field you put on called approval status that you can drive the graphic changes that gets updated as you work through that approval process. So in your approval process, you have steps. So if something moves through and it gets approved, it can go update that approval status and change these graphics for you. So it's really helpful. On the lead, you'll see here, if you have records or fields that are required to convert, nothing's more frustrating than converting a lead and then finding out, uh-oh, I got validation rules that come up in red and say, hey, you forgot to do this, it's required. Go ahead and build this data quality score and message so that they know up front, hey, you're missing some information, get it in there, that graphic goes away, and that they can convert and not get the red validation rule text that you've put in to kind of help keep your data clean for conversion of leads. So this is a big one that I did that really paid off when we were purchased by AutoTrader like 3 years ago. They came and they were not using Salesforce. They were using another CRM, and they kind of double dared me to show them that 5 business units with sales could work in one org, and what visibility could they have when they looked at an account to know what business unit the account had. You know, what product did that account have with any of the business units? They didn't even believe that I could set up the Salesforce org in a week, 40 hours. So I said, okay, 50 hours, I'll do it in 50 hours. So I went and, again, my graphics pack knowledge that I used about using graphics, I was able to put all this together, and the bottom section is actually embedded report charts. Is anybody here using embedded report charts on their account pages? This is great stuff. This is running reports that maybe shows an account how much revenue they bring in, or maybe a product mix that they have that you can put right on your account. You just build the report. Build the report, put a chart on it, go to your page layout, hit edit. There's a section on the left that says report charts, and you just drag it down onto the page. And now when somebody goes to the page, hey, we've got some revenue breakout, product breakout, whatever makes sense for your business to put on the page that gives some graphical information to your users about that account. Super helpful. So how did I do this? Well, first of all, I had to sit down and figure out how I was going to do it. How was I going to get the information I needed so that when I go back here, so you'll see full color means they're an active customer. The line through it means they're a former customer. They had our product, they went off our product. If it's in grayscale, that means they're a prospect. They don't have it. Sell it. Give them the product. They need it. So I knew that's what I wanted them to see, so easily they could tell who they were with as they were looking at the accounts to collaborate on sales. So I had to sit down and do a little process mapping. Anybody that knows me, that I always have paper at my desk and a pencil, and I sit and kind of process map things so I can figure out in my head how I'm going to make this work in Salesforce. So I had to find a data source. I had to set up a custom object that was just called BU Spend. I made it a master detail, and the reason why I did that was then I could do roll-ups. So you can't do a roll-up on the account if you don't have a master detail. So I did the master detail, and then I got my data input. I created my graphics. Originally, I had my graphics in the document library because that's really where I learned to put them. But then when my data would get copied to my sandbox, none of my graphics would show up. So a friend of mine that I work with tipped me off to using the static resource library to put my graphics in there so that if I need to update graphics, I don't have to do anything else with my formulas, nothing uploaded more into the document library. I can just replace the stuff in my static resource file, and it'll automatically pick it up and use it. So that was a real nice trick he told me. And then in my sandbox, my graphics are still there, so while I'm doing testing, I can still see, the logos changing, make sure everything's working correctly. And then, of course, I created the formula fields to display the graphics that were looking at the specific fields that I set up. I created those reports that made the embedded report graphics, and then I just added those report charts to the correct page layouts. So here's the simple product map. What I originally was going to do is I was going to work off the spend. I was going to say if they, the spend was greater than 0, that's an active customer. But then I forgot salespeople give away stuff for free. So I was like, okay, that's not going to work. So when I got my product spend, they gave me in the file information about the products to tell me whether it was active, delivered, canceled. So I decided to use that field to create another field that told me my product status value. So if it was active or pending, then it could be value of 1. If it was canceled, it would be 0. So I could use that in my formula fields for the statuses that made my logos kind of go color, gray, or the line through them. So here's my data source. I just got a simple file, create a custom object called ATG product, had few fields to store the information that I needed to make this happen. So I created some workflow rules, and if you download this deck, you could probably pretty much use these same workflow rules I set up. So these workflow rules drive the product status value as the products come in from the new daily feed. So we did an initial load of this product, and then every day we got deltas. Did an upsert, so if it was already in there, it would update it. If it was new, it was insert it. So that was handy because I could use the unique line number from the external system because I set up my field to say it was an external ID unique, so it wouldn't be duplicated. So I could use the upsert function with the data loader. So it would just, if something was active and got canceled and it was in that file, it would update it to canceled. If it was brand new, it would just insert it. So that was a real handy thing to learn. And I didn't really get it that I had to use the upsert to be able to do that functionality. So it was another thing I learned along the way. So I created the graphics, I saved them to the local drive, I zipped up all the images, and then I just navigated to build, develop static resources and uploaded my zip file with all those different graphics. For every BU, there's 3 graphics, so 15 graphics. And then I put the new field, so there's a roll-up field for each business unit that totals the spend amount for each active product. And then new fields on the account for each business unit. And then the roll-up fields that sums the product status value. Remember the 1 and the 0? So I could tell whether they were truly active or not, even though the spend might be 0. And then the workflow rules, 2 workflow rules for each BU. Some more new fields on the account. So this was the so these fields actually weren't on the account. I made these fields so I could get the flare for each BU, and then I made another formula field that combined all the flares into what I call the flare bar, which made so I didn't have to worry about aligning things or different sizes. I could use the image, and when you do an image formula, there's a little thing at the end that gets a little confusing that you can use to actually size images. So even if you had them different sizes in the formula, you can standardize the size of each of the images to be regular across when you put them, if you're putting them all on a page. And then so this is the overall. You see there, I'm looking at all this stuff to do this flare bar. And it was called the ATG company status, which is the whole bar across the top that has all those logos that change as product comes in and out every morning when they do the file. And then here's my report. So I made the report, did a report chart, and I put on there so that my filter was for the account ID. So whatever account you're on, that report chart is going to pull the spend data for my custom object up into the account and make those charts relevant to just that account that you're on. Has anybody done that before, where you have custom links that just work off of using that functionality of the account ID? So if you have a lot of data, you can just click a custom link and it'll pull a report but only show the data for just that account. That's really a fun thing. We must have 4 or 5. We have links that say, show me the open cases, show me the closed cases, show me something, but show me a smaller amount of data. Because you know your list views are going to get really long. They're mixed up with a lot of stuff. They're open, closed stuff, closed won, closed lost. So custom links are a way for you to put something on the page for users who want to quickly get to something with detailed information, but based on something that just says, show me open cases, show me escalated cases, show me just the closed cases this year. Really handy thing to do is do custom links. And then here's where I put I dragged, you'll see it says over on the left, the report charts, did edit, page layout, report charts, and I just drug it down there. And you can also size it within the graphic there. There's a wrench there, so you can even do some sizing of how big you want your report chart to be on your page. And that's how that happened. That's what I came up with. And this was, I mean, of all the work that I did putting up Salesforce, this is the thing that everybody talked about the whole time, was just this visibility to be able to see this graphical representation of an account. So I encourage you all to go out and get the graphics pack and just learn how it kind of works. It's a great implementation guide that walks you through the whole process of how to build the formula fields and gives you great examples. And take advantage of these things, engage your users to be part of the process, maybe have some kind of fun thing about, hey, maybe it's something that shows your products. If you have different products, maybe it shows the products that they've purchased on the page. So have fun with it, engage your users, make them feel like they're part of the process to build out your Salesforce org. And then I think your adoption, you'll see a big increase in your adoption when you start letting your users kind of help you with some of this simple configuration that's a little bit fun. So action plans. This app is for people who, you know, Salesforce is great. We've got leads and accounts and opportunities, and we've got support. But what happens after you sell something? So you've sold it, now you need to onboard it. Are you going to make like 100 new fields for onboarding on your opportunity? So what this action plan will allow you to do is create templates, like reusable templates for processes you have, say for implementing products. So if somebody has an opportunity that has a certain product, you could click the action plans button and then pick like the one that you've got set up for product A, and it would have the steps that it takes to do the onboarding of the product. And it lets you do dependent tasks too, so it'll only trigger the next task, could trigger the next task based on the first task being completed, and can assign it to different people. So it's a very handy tool to extend the ROI on your Salesforce to be able to put this free app in and use it to do maybe onboarding. You could use it to do maybe performance management or account management. just extending your Salesforce, getting all your users in the org, and enriching your data from start to finish in your process of what your business does. Mass update tasks. How many of you use list views to mass update information? Anybody? So how many of you get frustrated because you can't do that with tasks? So this app allows you to have the same functionality that you have in list views, where you can mass update things by going on the left-hand side, clicking down the action bar. This app allows you to have that same functionality with tasks. Really handy and easy to use, especially for people that are like sales people tend to have a lot of tasks, where they could go in maybe at the end of the day and maybe update tasks that they've completed for the day, or change the status or the due date, or assign it to somebody else. So it's very, very handy application to improve productivity. Opportunity Accountability Dashboard. I installed this dashboard in 2009, and it is still being used today. Salespeople are very difficult sometimes to be able to get them to do the things they need to do, to give you the data that you need to roll up to your executives and business managers so they can make decisions. This dashboard is so handy. Our salespeople will come in the morning, they'll refresh their dashboard and look at things they've just missed. The close dates in the past, the stage is stuck and stale, it's closing this month, it has no activities, it's closing in 60 days with activities. This is download it, customize it to your business, put the filters in that make sense for your business. Even managers can use this. So when you sit down with a salesperson, you could set this up to view as somebody and sit with them and talk to them about, okay, here's your pipeline. How can we have all, here's stuff with no activities, there's close dates in the past, why is this stuck so long? There's also a push counter that goes with it, so you can know how many times the salesperson is pushing their close date, so that you can maybe coach and help them understand how they should be setting their close date based on what they're trying to sell. Super valuable, still used every day in our sales organization. Case history. So love support, love cases, you're logging calls, you're sending emails, you're updating the status, you're making case comments. And that's in how many different places? This little app puts all that in chronological order, so that when you're reviewing a case, you can click it and see like when it was created, and probably the status was new, when it got escalated, case comments that were made, emails that were sent, calls that were logged. Now the email functionality is a little kludgy because a lot of the emails are HTML, and when they're HTML then it gets a little messy. But just having kind of that history of being able to look at a support case and know here's where it started, here's where the status changed, here's some calls logged, some emails sent, some comments made, and being able to see that in chronological order is really valuable without having to kind of hunt and peck your eyes in all the different places, from status history to comments to activity history. Very handy tool for the support division. Those are my favorite apps. So I hope you guys found that to be valuable, and I certainly hope you take advantage of going out to the AppExchange. And sometimes if you download it doesn't work, don't be afraid to make a comment, leave a review. People that build these apps, they will respond and help you out. It's amazing. I mean, the community is really amazing. I had a problem the other day. I was trying to do a matrix report with some percentages of revenue when it got onboarded versus when it got created, and I just could not figure out that parent group value formula that you put in. And I posted on the community with a picture of myself ripping my hair out and some things, and I had like 3 people help me with that. Immediately I got it done and got it out. So don't be afraid to go to the community, use answers. Don't be afraid when you download stuff that doesn't work. Don't leave a negative review. Just leave a review. Hey, I want to try this out. I'm having a problem. People will come and help you. So take advantage of it. It's a community of people that love Salesforce and love to help other people. So thank you.
It's awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Maggie. Thanks, Karen. So everybody's had a chance to take a picture of the 10 apps, and like you've probably heard in some of your other sessions, this deck is going to be posted on the record. You go in your Dreamforce app and see the session. We'll post the slides there, so you have an opportunity to download these if you would like to take a look at some of that great detail that Maggie provided, especially around the graphics pack. So just a little bit more about the AppExchange. If you haven't visited them in Moscone West or Moscone North, there's presence in both of those areas where they're talking about what the latest things are with the AppExchange, some of the new Lightning components. So components is a new area. That's where you'll find your components, is in the AppExchange as well. You've heard a lot of people talking about our Lightning components. We're getting a little later now, so I think a lot of these sessions are in the past, but tomorrow, I guess in the products showcase, there's still, will still be open tomorrow if you want to stop by and see what's happening with the AppExchange. And I know that as you're walking around the expo, the vendors are giving away these little tiles, and I think there's going to be some prizes to the folks with the most flair on their lanyard. So if you haven't been collecting those, you could do that. And then please share your feedback on all the sessions that you've been attending. So in the app, the little notification bell in the top right, you click on that once you're in that session record, and you can leave feedback for us, because that's how we decide what sessions we get to have next year at Dreamforce. And at the end of this deck, just to let you know, there's some other slides that were provided by the AppExchange team that I think are amazing. These are not all free, but it's functionally divided by each, like admins, HR, sales, whatever your function is, and then the best AppExchange apps for each of those functions. So for IT and admins, for example, this one has some data management, reporting and dashboards, change management, and there's one for Service Cloud, for Sales Cloud. So it'll be at the end of this deck, and you can take a look at those, and it gives you a good kind of overview of some of the best apps that are available. Does anybody have any questions for Maggie or Karen? Any questions about some of the things that Maggie built with graphics? I had to she's talked about her flare bar a lot, because I've seen it. I've seen how much people like it, and the visibility is just. We can't stress enough how much that helps with adoption, which I know a lot of us that were admins and trying to get salespeople and service people to adopt the system. People just do react. You can move so much quicker if you're looking at a stoplight or something like that, rather than reading text. So we really want to make sure that everybody's taking advantage of that capability. JJ.
How do you find new apps? How do you keep on top of this? Because there's so many of them, and just figuring out which ones are any good or which ones are actually helpful. How do you guys choose which apps that you're going to install and start using?
So
That's a good question.
I subscribe to the AppExchange, so I think every week or every other week I get a notice of new apps, and I'll go look at them. I have a dev org, and I'll download it. But most of the experience, like I said, and when I started in 2004, it was a startup company. I'd worked for a banking software company, and the son didn't want to do that, so he took myself and 4 other people to start this company, and the marketing guy said, hey, I heard about Salesforce, and here it is, go figure it out. I went to the largest users group is in Orange County, California. I went out there and I walked in a room with like 750 people, all doing different things, using the same application. I was like, wow, how could this possibly be? And so I went back, and of course, a startup, we needed everything. I mean, we bought this product, we were paying per month per user, and we were like, okay, we've got our dev team working on the transactional SQL database, and the rest of us are like, uh-oh. And I went out to the AppExchange, I found things that I looked at and didn't know how I could use. Like, I found an app that was called, I needed something to do onboarding. And so I found this app called Sales Orders and Sales Order Items, okay? And what it did was, when an opportunity was closed won, you could press a button, and it would make a clone of the opportunity and all the products. And ha-ha, I'm going to call it projects and project pieces. And so I just renamed it, and I used it so my onboarding team could work outside opportunities and their own thing. And I just took and put milestones on the page, and we had the products, and then we embedded a product process, so each different kind of product, if it took different steps to do it. I mean, it just was amazing to me. And when I couldn't figure out stuff, I would go to the AppExchange, and I would download stuff, and I would just dig into their customization guide, put it in my sandbox, figure out how they did it, even on the paid ones. So I'd find paid ones, and I thought, man, I really want that paid one, but nobody's going to give me the money to buy it. So I would download the free ones, see what they had done, how they had done it, and then just make it myself. So I mean, some of them you'll have problems with, but again, Sid, if you just go out there and post something and say, listen, I want to use this, it seems like something I can use, there's people out there who are going to come and help you. It's just what the community is. So, I mean, we've had so many apps. I'm currently working on one called Roll-Up Helper, which is a free app, but it runs batch mode. Yeah. I just got approval to get the enterprise because I have some custom objects that aren't master detail for a reason because I need an owner. But I need to roll up that information, and I've got a way to now I can roll up this information on 3 different places in my org, which is just super. It wasn't that expensive, like $1,200 or $1,900 for a short, long period of time, like 2 or 3 years. It was really. It's really great. I can't wait to get it. People are just like, when is it? When are we going to have it in production? Yeah. And so I'm just constantly finding some cool stuff out there. I mean, there was one last year we talked about where if you had notices you wanted to give your employees, there was a ticker type thing that you could do notices out to your customers. It'd be like a ticker underneath the tab line. I mean, go out there and just search for the free stuff first, because that's the most fun. It's free. Yeah. Become a hero.
Yeah, and you can filter, right? So there's ways to filter and see what's new, right? And read the reviews, right? Because people do, as Maggie mentioned, the community is very strong, and people do leave really good reviews and comments, and read through all of those to get some feedback, and reach out to the developers. I've done a lot with that as well. I'm usually an early adopter. I like to kind of play with them early, and the developers out there love to get your feedback. They love to hear your use case, and they are more than happy to help you, tweak the product to meet your needs, right, and help you work through some of the issues.
It helps them to develop new stuff when they hear feedback of other things you need. I mean, at one point we had a free app for expense reports, a free app for time tracking, a free app for vacation time. So when we wanted to track our vacation, I mean, we had, Jason used to work with me years and years ago, and I don't know how many apps, 15, 16, 17 free apps. Just we were running the business end to end, and our CEO, he thought we were gods to him because we had saved him so much money with so much functionality. And when AutoTrader came in to buy the company we work for, they were blown away by the sophistication. This hayseed company in Kansas, we're just a Kansas company, had done. So let's take advantage of it.
Yep.
Was there another question?
There was another question. Oh my goodness.
The success community?
The success community, yeah.
If you go to help, well, it's public facing, isn't it? The success community.
Go to the help and training link in your Salesforce instance, and there at the top of the bar you'll see community. Yeah, go click community and start exploring. Yeah.
You can go to success.community.
Success.salesforce.com.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yes.
Google works well too.
Love Google.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love
Do you want to tell them about your favorite Google?
So we did this presentation last year, and we've switched it up this year. So one of the big finds that I discovered, and I can't remember the developer's name who put it together, so I apologize. You'll have to go find our presentation from last year. But there is a little website. It's findsf.info. Write that down. Bookmark that. It's on my tab. All my browsers, and you can type in anything, and it goes and it searches the community, blogs, developer force, videos, it just conglomerates and does this massive search, and it is the best website ever. I use it almost every day. There's always a question I have about, there's features and functions we don't use all the time. Like you were talking about the, previous value group in a report summary field, right? How often do you build that, right? You know how to do it. You did it 18 months ago, but you've got to go do it again, and it's like, oh heck, I don't remember this. I go to findsf.info, type it in, and boom, I've got my answers right there. So that one is a real gem.
I learned everything from Google and the community. I'm not kidding you. I mean, anytime I felt like I was stumped, I never gave up. I just posted it out there, and people were more than willing to work with me. Make sure you put out screenshots. Make sure you put out some details of what you're trying to do. But you'll get a lot of help, and I'm telling you, you will be a superhero at your organization when you start doing these kind of things. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, and the good news is someone else has already done it, right?
Yeah.
So there's no recreating the wheel. Someone else has already been through your pain and struggle, and they've found the solution. The MVPs, the Salesforce MVPs are awesome. They're all over the community. They're quick to answer and really walk you through and help you out.
Yep. And they actually, the MVPs have a group, actually, if you haven't seen that, on the Success Community, and they hold office hours, I believe, every week.
Friday.
Every
Yeah.
Friday.
Yeah.
So you can just log into that GoToMeeting and ask them anything. They take turns staffing it. So
Also, find your local users group.
Yep.
And if you
Yep.
don't have one, start one. I mean, that's another great way to learn, is get a bunch of
Absolutely.
Salesforce people talking about Salesforce.
Yeah.
And
if anyone
helping you.
hasn't been to the Success Community, when this is over, I mean, I would be happy to, give you my card, and I'd be happy to give you like a, get on a GoToMeeting and walk you through all of it, after Dreamforce. So thank you guys for coming. Enjoy the food fighters tonight.
Yeah.